All right. Welcome to this week's Read This Next with Nicole and Jessie. Welcome,
Hi.
Jessie. So, Jessie, what do you do in the library?
I am a librarian with the Thunder Bay Public Library, and I am currently based out of the Waverly branch.
Woohoo! And how long have you worked here?
I have worked here for 12 years.
Wow. It's funny
Yeah.
asking everybody who comes on how long they've been here because everybody's a lifer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Once in a library, always in a library. Our topic for this week is light and fluffy reads / chick lit, but there is some arguments to be made about why they shouldn't be called chick lit, which is something we can talk about if you want, or we can talk about the book specifically.
Well, yeah, and it's something that's actually kind of interesting about this genre, because the term of chick lit was really, really popular when I started my career here back in 2008, and we didn't really think too much of it. And now, even in thinking about this conversation, I was like, I don't want to call it chick lit because that's just really stereotypical and it doesn't fit and it doesn't really work anymore. So I'm a big fan of, the phrase fluffy fiction, or just calling it cozy mysteries, and all these different things that sort of get to more of the core of what these books are about.
Yeah, because chick lit is very much like we talked about this during our Pride episode, where a lot of people are like, this is an LGBTQ book, but it's not. It just has LGBTQ people in it, and it's the same in movies. If it's got women in it, that doesn't mean it's a chick lit.
And there are so many different types of books that are labeled as chick lit, but they're historical fiction, they're romance, they're adventure, they're just general fiction, there's sci-fi and supernatural. Like, it doesn't really work, and then it leaves out this whole segment of readership because of that label.
And it really limits what becomes popular, even because like you're saying, people don't want to read it because they're like, that's chick lit, that's for women. It's like, everybody can enjoy a good light read with a mystery of a town lady who likes to knit,
right? And at the end of a hard day, especially right now where we're just on Zoom calls all day and you're exhausted, I go home, and when I'm like getting ready for bed and I'm thinking, okay, what am I going to read for a little while before the full end of my day? Something light, that's still engaging, that still has really fantastic character and story development and plot lines, I'm in.
Absolutely.
But it's not gonna ask too much of me.
Yeah, that's the best. I think when for a period of time after I got out of university, I didn't really read much, and I told Ruth, that another lady who works at the library, for those that don't know, and she was like, well, what kind of books do you want to read? And I said, well, I don't want a big meal. I want a little light snack. And these kind of books are light snacks. They don't ask much of you.
Yeah. When Ruth and I shared an office, when we were both based at the Brody Library, she would regularly just put stuff on hold for me because she was the one doing all the ordering for a few years for all of our fiction collections for the system.
Nice.
And she would there would just be stuff that would show up for me, and I was just like, oh, well, that looks wonderful.
Like, thank you, Book Fairy.
Exactly.
I love that. Okay, well, let's get into the highlights then, because we got a whole bunch.
We do.
So I'll start. The first one is Maisie Dobbs. It's a series, and you said you've read this one. It's by Jacqueline Winspear.
Yes.
Very cute cover. I'll put it in here in editing.
Yep.
So I'll describe it, and then you can tell us what you liked about it.
Okay.
Maisie Dobbs, psychologist and investigator, began working her life at the age of 13. Began her working life at the age of 13 as a servant in a Belgravia mansion, only to be discovered reading in the library by her employer, Lady Rowan Compton. Fearing dismissal, Maisie is shocked when she discovers that her thirst for education is to be supported by Lady Rowan and a family friend, Dr. Maurice Blanche. But the Great War intervenes in Maisie's plans, and soon after commencement of her studies at Girton College, Cambridge, Maisie enlists for nursing services overseas. Years later, having apprenticed with Blanche, a man revered for his work in the Scotland Yard, Maisie sets up her own business. Ooh, and then it says her first assignment, seemingly tedious inquiry involving a case of suspected infidelity, takes her not only on the trail of a killer, but back to the war she had tried so hard to forget.
Yeah. I know, right?
They sound so
So
good.
I know. This series, this was brought into my life by a good friend of mine who like is just, you know, all about the historical fiction lady detective, independent woman protagonist, kind of an idea. And I love this series so much. Like, it's so good. For many years, I would just like eagerly await the next one to come out. I think there's something like somewhere around like 9 or 10, I want to say,
That's
in the
good.
series. So like it's a decent length of a series.
Mm-hmm.
It has been wrapped up. Like the final one has come out. So they sort of wrapped everything up and brought it to a close. So it's not like it's going to go on and on and on and on and on.
That's comforting.
Exactly. And then you start to wonder, like, how is it possible that this person just keeps bringing all this like chaos and drama into their life?
Yeah, like
Um,
retire.
Exactly, exactly. But the things that I love the most about the Maisie Dobbs series are, you know, her character first and foremost. You know, she's this independent woman living in, you know, throughout the years of the First World War, and then in the years following that and all the aftermath of that, living in and around London,
Mm-hmm.
in the UK. And it's really kind of interesting the way that they piece together all of the um, parts of her life as a child and growing up,
Oh.
you know, as a servant
Mm-hmm.
within this, you know, stately home, and then the path that her life winds up taking. And there are so many different, like, all these little side stories that kind of come into it, and all these different characters. And her best friend in the series is amazing. I wish that I had this woman's wardrobe. It's all
Ooh,
like high-waisted, like wide palazzo style pants,
the
and
dream.
just, yeah, like crisp and tailored, and she sounds fabulous. um, you know, and there are, you know, people that like Maisie, there are people that don't like Maisie. She's not perfect by any means, and they
That's
don't try
good.
to play it off as if she knows everything. She has some really fantastic support characters that you just fall in love with.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, like every time you get into a new book in the series, and then you start seeing some of these older plot lines coming back in, or these other characters coming back in, it's like that one of those little moments of like, oh, I missed that one. Oh,
I
I'm
like
glad they're
that.
here. Yeah,
That's great. That's a sign of a good author. They're like, every character is important and has their own personality.
exactly.
I love that.
Exactly.
All right,
Yeah.
next one.
All right. Okay, so our second highlight for this discussion is called Separation Anxiety, and it is by Laura Zigman. This is a huge departure from the Maisie Dobbs series and that style of, you know, lighter and lighthearted fiction, where Maisie Dobbs is all historical fiction and it's a series. This is a one-off title by this author, and it focuses on the story of Judy, whose life has not gone exactly the way she planned it would
Mhm.
go. You know, she experienced some success as a children's book author earlier on in her adult life, and unfortunately, it kind of turned out to be a bit of a one-hit wonder.
Mhm.
And then things went downhill from there. You know, things aren't necessarily great at home with her family. And then one day she is going through a bunch of stuff, from when her son was a baby and as a little boy, and she finds the sling that she would carry him in,
Oh.
and she puts the dog in it.
Yep, that
And
sounds about right.
she starts wearing her dog.
I would do that.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, at first when I read the blurb on the book, I thought, okay, that's so ridiculous. I'm going to read this just so that I can laugh at how ridiculous it is. And
Yeah.
at the end of it, I found myself kind of looking at my 55-pound husky thinking,
Let's
would
make
he
it
let me?
work.
Like, would he stand for this? And anyway, the whole premise of the book is about how she goes from being, frankly, a bit of a hot mess, and then through this stage of wearing the dog, essentially as a self-preservation survival mechanism,
Yeah.
and just as a little bit of comfort in her world while everything is super chaotic and just falling apart around her.
Mhm.
And just the amount of help that wearing the dog provides. And there are some really, really ridiculous moments in between, like when she is giving a talk at her son's school, and she's on the stage in the auditorium in front of everybody wearing the dog.
How old is her kid? Like high school or elementary?
He's still in elementary school.
Okay.
But like he's at that really, really, really tentative age where he's just like, oh my God, okay, I don't know her.
Just know my mom. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's really cute. It sounds good. So that's a one-off.
Yeah.
It looks like it's fairly new. Like the other one looks more like
Maisie Dobbs, that started to come out. I think the first one came out in or around 2008 or like somewhere in the mid 2000s.
Okay.
And then the most recent one in the Maisie Dobbs series just came out a couple of years ago.
Okay.
So it took about 10 years or so for it to wrap up. Yeah, and separation anxiety is probably within the last few years.
Yeah, you can tell by the cover. It's very cute. And her dog looks like it could be what are those called? Some sort of Sheltie? Yeah. Looks very cute though. I like it. Oh wait, did I have a second page? Nope. Wow, you summed it up much better than the description we had here. This looks like this is so long.
Mm-hmm.
Yours is much more interesting, but
this is why you talk to library staff about what to read.
Yeah, and that's why we try and have like not just me and Laura on here.
Yeah.
We read the kind of books we like, and
exactly
books they like, so we pass it around. Okay, this one I'm pretty sure this is a series, but it doesn't say that it is. The Ship of Brides by Jojo Moyes.
No, this one it's a one-off.
Okay, are there her other ones? Sorry.
She's got a couple. She's got like Me Before You had one or two books that paired with it, but she doesn't really do series. Jojo Moyes typically just does like one-off stories, and they're all amazing. Like most people probably would know her from Me Before You because it got made into the big movie, and it was a big thing. But so many of her books are just so great.
Her covers always look this like very similar, which is amazing, or the same font. I'll put the cover here, and so I think that might be why I thought they were a series.
Probably, yeah.
Okay, here we go. Available in the U.S. for the first time. A post. Wow, my brain just completely blanked.
What are you reading?
World War II. What?
Okay.
Yeah, it says from the New York Times bestselling author of The Giver of Stars, in an earlier work available in the U.S. for the first time, a post-World War II story of the war brides who crossed the sea by the thousands to face their unknown futures. So that's like the basic summary, right? Or is that a different book?
Nope, that's it.
Great. Yeah. It sounds like they come from Australia? No, they come from Australia.
They leave from they leave, so all these women, like they're leaving from Australia, but they come from all over the place. Like a lot of them are just sort of like sent to Australia to get on the boat. And it's probably no surprise by now, since I was raving about Maisie Dobbs and now I'm raving about this one. I love historical fiction. It makes me so happy. It blends some of my favorite things. And this one, I think, particularly for the generation of us where our grandparents were involved in the Second World War, and generations of our family were involved in that time in history, where we can actually still, connect to it by talking with them or reading, their journals or their memories of it. And this is something that really, I think, just sort of can strike home for a lot of us in thinking back through recent family history, that, these hundreds and thousands of women would just get on these ships, in the aftermath of the Second World War, and sail to another part of the world to meet up with their husband, who they may or may not know really all that well. Like some of them, had been married for a long time and they were going to reunite with their husbands. Some of them got married during the war and they were going to start this new life. And so this book, and it's one of the things that I really love about Jojo Moyes, is that she does a bunch of research into her stories and into her topics. So she actually dives right into it, and like you feel like you're actually on that ship.
Oh wow.
And from the perspective of these characters, the ship they were on was a hot mess. Like it was so bad.
I believe that. Sounds about right. The situation they're in is a pristine.
Right?
No, it's a hot mess.
No, and like so many of the women in this book, they're getting onto this ship thinking they're getting onto like a cruise liner, and they're not. You know, a lot of the women know exactly what they're getting into when they get onto this ship, because you know they served in the war. They were nurses. They were filling other roles of need during that period. And then some of these women come from families of wealth and families of status, and they think that they're just going to get taken care of and catered to on this ship. And then they get on, and it's like, okay, so here's your room that you're sharing with 3 to 4 other women.
Yeah.
Here's your bunk. You have enough room to like turn around when you're all standing up. Probably not a good idea to all be standing up at the same time. And then over the course of their trip to get where they're going, all of everything comes out because they're spending weeks together with, you know, hundreds of other people. And it's also a working vessel. So all of the naval officers are there and they're working. So like basically the women are kind of like confined to this one area, and everybody's told, you know, like don't hang out with each other, you can't fraternize, and like there are some antics that go on, and a lot of it is probably really really indicative of the reality of what it was like to make that trip, and the fear and the stress and the anxiety that went with it. And then it has like this wonderful ending, and it's just so beautiful.
Yay, that's what you
Yeah.
You're like, oh,
Right? Yeah.
now I feel relieved. What's
exactly.
catharsis?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the next one, we'll just put the image here. Fabulous. Okay. And did you want to tell us about this one too, Jessie?
Is this just going to be the Jessie show, or I can
read this one here? I got it.
You read this one.
At the Edge of the World, from the Finfarin Peninsula series by Felicity Hayes McCoy. Did I say that right?
I think so.
I never pronounce things correctly. A warm, feel-good novel about the importance of finding a place where you belong. Local librarian, I see why you like it.
Right? Yeah.
Local librarian Hannah Casey is wondering where it all went wrong. Driving her mobile library van through the Finfarin farms and villages, she tries not to think about the sophisticated London life she abandoned when she left her cheating husband, or that she's now stuck in her crotchety mom's spare bedroom with her daughter Jazz traveling the world and her relationship with her mother growing increasingly fraught. Hannah decides to reclaim her independence. Then, when the threatened closure of her library puts her plans in jeopardy, she will find herself leading a battle to restore the heart and soul of the fragmented community. Will she also find the new life she's been looking for? Maybe.
Dun, dun, dun.
It looks really, it sounds really cute.
I know, right? So this is kind of like, you know, every librarian's little moment of like, oh, I would love to just have a little bookmobile, and that would be my life. Yeah. Drive that around.
Drive around town.
Right? You know, drive around the coast, just stop at little communities here and there and really connect with people. Yeah, this one is so fluffy. Like this is just the epitome of fluffy fiction.
That's like, what you want.
And I love it. I read the first book in this series. I think I had taken somebody, like a friend of mine had like smashed their hand when they fell during a run, and it, you know, it wasn't really doing so well. So we took them to the hospital to get it checked out. And I read most of this book sitting in the emergency waiting room, waiting for my friend to get all their x-rays done.
Kept your mind off things? Yeah,
it was cool.
There you go. Sounds good.
Yeah, it's one of those books where like the cover, it's definitely not a book to read if you're out and you don't want people to ask you about it, because the title and the cover just sort of inspire that question in people. They're like, well, what is it? What is the library at the edge of the world? So if you're up for a chat with strangers, cool. If you're not, maybe not the best choice.
There you go. What words of warning for everybody out there.
Yeah.
And you know what though? Just any book that includes a library in it is like, that's going on my to read list.
Yes,
I'm like,
absolutely.
Looks good.
Absolutely. I've read further into the series as well,
Mhm.
and it's good. I'm a fan.
All right. That's what everybody needs to know. Read the book, finish the series, enjoy it all. Okay.
Exactly.
Now we're going to go in. Well, these have all been basically Jessie recommendations because you recommended the highlights for me.
Yeah, that's fair.
But now we're going to go into the actual recommendations, which are ones that we really, really liked.
Let's start with yours.
Okay. Mine is called This Lullaby by Sarah Dessen. Have you ever read her stuff?
I have not.
Okay. She's a YA author, and she writes obviously about teens and like young adults that are like falling in love for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
But this one's about a girl named, it could be Remy, could be Rami. It's probably Rami. But in my mind, always said it Remy because I'm never said it out loud. And her mom has been through like 5 relationships and she's on her 5th marriage. So she's very much, she doesn't really believe in love. She's like, well, my mom's been married 5 times. It's not real. It can't happen. So she's like, I will never fall in love. And then she meets this boy and he's a musician and he's messy and he's everything that she doesn't like. And I think his name is Dexter. And it's important to remember that her dad wrote a lullaby. He was a very famous musician and he wrote a lullaby and it was about her. And she and Dexter kind of start dating and then she breaks it off because she doesn't believe in love. And then it's like, will they get back together? Won't they get back together? But what I really liked about Sarah Dessen's novel, all of hers are really good, but she just writes them very, like, not super connected, but they all take place in the same area. So like Barbara Starr is her mom, and Barbara Starr is also mentioned in another book by Sarah Dessen.
Oh, okay.
So they're all kind of a little bit connected. And I just like how like soft they were. They were very chill, which
and that's really great because when I was skimming the blurb about this one, I read that line where it says there's something about Dexter, and all I could think about was the
murder.
Yeah, was Dexter the murderer? That series, and I was like, oh, okay, where's this going?
No, they both learn to change for the better, and it's the books are just very soft. Like they're not like a lot of YA romance is like, oh, I love you, choose me. But this one's just like, you know what? I don't believe in love. And then she's like, oh, maybe I do. And it's great. So if you're just beginning to get into the chick lit fluffy reads, that's a good one for you. And there's tons that she's written. So this is an older one, but yeah, I liked it.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Okay, so my full recommendation for this chat is another series. Like series are kind of a standard thing for like fluffy fiction and cozy mysteries, particularly cozy mysteries. So we already mentioned that this one is a cozy coffee mystery. It's from the Coffee House Mystery series by Cleo Coyle. And the first book in the series is called On What Grounds. There are, I think, around 13 or so books in the series right now.
Very funny.
Yeah. Every single one of the books, like the title, always has some sort of play on coffee terminology.
Of course.
Right?
Why wouldn't it?
Yeah. So the Coffee House Mystery series is entertaining. It is light. It is fluffy. It's, I don't know, it's kind of like a large caramel extra sugar latte with extra foam all piled on top of it, all not like crammed into one.
Delicious.
Exactly, like multiple pumps of extra syrup, and somebody dies in every single one. And the main character, Claire Cossey, she solves every single murder.
Good
At
for
the
her.
same time, she is the roast master for her coffee shop, which is this iconic century-old coffee shop that's been running in the Village in
Oh,
New York for 100 years.
that's cool.
And so, like, she's a roast master. She's running a business. She's got a family. And she's sourcing coffee out to all these like hotels and like other restaurants and other shops. So like she's running this really dynamic business, and then somehow she has
She's
time
solving murder.
to solve a murder in every single book.
That's a business lady if I've ever heard of one. She's just like,
know,
let's do this too.
oh, and she is a gourmet cook.
Because why
Right?
not?
Because why not? Like, she clearly never does anything but all these things.
Just perfection.
Exactly. And she knows everything. She's never wrong. Like, she pulls like these arcane little bits of art history memory out of her brain from her university days. And I'm sitting there going like, I don't remember what I learned last week.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how you're doing that. But this is the type of series where you go into it and you suspend your disbelief.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're watching a television show and it's like all of a sudden in the span of one episode, like more has happened than is realistically possible.
Oh yeah.
And like they never have to go to the bathroom and they never have to go to work.
Mm-hmm.
And like high school students never have to do any homework or go to class.
Mm-hmm.
So that happens in this series, very much so.
Yeah. There's like 82 hours in a day.
Pretty much. And so you suspend your disbelief when you go into this series and you just enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
And the things that happen are ridiculous and it's just all over the place and it's kind of wild at times. And one of the best parts of it are the recipes.
Oh, it's got recipes in it.
It's got recipes. It's one of those series that has recipes at the end of it. And a lot of series do that. They might have recipes, they might have patterns if it's based in crafting of some sort. This one's got recipes, and the majority of the recipes have coffee in them.
Tasty.
Yeah, right? And it fits within the whole theme.
Yeah, it's right up your alley too.
Exactly. I have tried
it.
Exactly. I've tried many of the recipes from these books,
Mm-hmm.
and many of them have worked their way into my recipe box at home because they're amazing.
Excellent.
I think there's one for espresso brownies that I love. I made a recipe for beef stew that has coffee in it, which is absolutely delightful.
It sounds wrong, but I believe you.
Oh, it's so good. The acid in the coffee helps to tenderize the meat, and it gives the whole thing this like really, really like deep, meaty flavor. It's so good.
I'm gonna need you to send it to me.
Okay.
Because I would like to try it because I've got Rosencrantz coffee at my house that I need to use.
Okay.
Everybody go check out Rosencrantz Coffee.
Nicole.
What? Go check it out. They make good coffee. They're local. They're from Thunder Bay. Go check it out. That's why we love this book.
All right. Well, that was it for my list of recommendations.
And that's everything. We've talked about it all. What time?
All right, cool.
Okay, so I'll just say the final things. Thank you so much for coming on the episode, Jessie. I really appreciate it. Everybody can check us out Fridays at 2 p.m. on YouTube and Facebook. And we'll see you then. Bye.
Awesome. Bye.